Hi, today we are going to cover ranges from a VBA perspective. This is especially for those who are at the beginning of their VBA journey or those who want a refresher on ranges. Why I choose range is primarily because of two reasons. Firstly, range is one of the foundational topics, being the most frequently object within the VBA environment. Very often, you will use the range as an input, do transformations, and have range as an output. My second reason is if your understanding of range is not good, your journey is not going to be smooth. Very frequently, your code is going to break down. Especially for a beginner, this will be demotivating, and an aversion can develop towards the VBA language itself. This initial distaste can get compounded further down the line as you transition into topics building upon ranges. So, having said this, to avoid this pain, we'll try to understand range from a VBA context and the proper coding practices to manipulate ranges. So, let's get started. Hi, a range can either be a single cell or collection of multiple cells. Let us consider the example of a simple range. Let's go to the workbook named VBA underscore topic underscore range. And currently we are in the worksheet named sheet 3. Let us consider the example of a simple range. Let's say from D5 to D18. Let me highlight the interior of the cells of this particular range with gray color so that I am easily able to identify it. Let me enter the text string value in cell D4 and let me enter random numbers between 1 to 20 by using randBetween function, wherein I will pass the argument 1, 20. I have entered this formula in the first cell of this range. I will copy this formula to the remaining cells of this particular range. We have commands readily available in the Excel ribbon to change the number format. I want to display 2 decimal places. Let me change the horizontal alignment to center. So this is it. I have done a sequence of changes on this particular range via the various commands readily available in the Excel ribbon. I can do the same changes and many more operations from the a VBA macro, which from the Vba Editor, for which I'll click on the Developer tab, then on the Visual Basic. So right now we have both the Vba Editor and the worksheet open. Let me resize the worksheet so that both the Vba Editor and the worksheet are adjacent to each other. So right now we are in module 2 of the worksheet VBA underscore topic underscore range. Now, before going on to write the code to execute, to do these same changes as we had done in the worksheet earlier, I will have 2 declarations, option explicit and option based one. I would suggest you to write all these 2 declarations in every module whenever you are inserting a new module, and before writing any code, have these 2 declarations at the top of a particular module. So option explicit makes it mandatory to declare the type of a variable before going on to assigning and using that variable in your code. Now this is very useful whenever you are modifying a code that you had received from someone else, or you are revisiting your own code after a prolonged duration of time. It becomes easier for you to interpret the flow of your code, and as a result identifying errors and debugging also is simplified. So highly recommended to use option explicit declaration. The next declaration is option based one, which means that you are directing VBA to start your array indexing from 1. The default array indexing is 0, but whenever you mention option based 1, uh, it is understood by VBA to start the array indexing from 1. Now, as you will keep on writing more codes, you will be dealing with array objects. You'll be converting ranges into arrays, and arrays to again modified arrays, and then you might transform it back to ranges. So very frequently you'll be dealing with multiple array objects. Now, in those situations, usually it would be convenient to have the indexing from 1. You can choose to have it as 0 also, but your code accordingly has to be specifically written with 0 indexing in mind. So usually I prefer to keep it as to start array indexing from 1. So these two declarations are very useful. Now let us go ahead to write a routine, a procedure, or a macro, multiple ways to refer to the same thing. So basically, a routine contains lines of code which can execute multiple commands, which can carry out multiple operations onto your worksheet. So let us go ahead with doing the same changes as we had done in the worksheet. So the very first thing is we'll declare an array, we'll declare a variable which will be of the type range. So we'll use the dim statement, dim. Let's say the variable name is RR1 as range. So we have declared the RR1 as a range object. Now we'll be assigning this particular range D5 to D18 residing within the worksheet sheet 3, which lies within the workbook Vba underscore topic underscore range. We'll be assigning this particular range to the variable name RR1, and this is possible by using the set statement. So set RR1 equal to this workbook. This workbook refers to the workbook in which the code is present. So in this particular case, this workbook refers to VBA underscore topic underscore range. So set RR1 equal to this workbook.Worksheets. Since the worksheet is sheet 3 in our case, so I will enter the string sheet 3 dot range, and the range is the first cell of our range is D5. So D5 colon D18. Another alternate way to write this is almost similar. The only thing is the first cell and the last cell of our particular range will be separated by a comma. Let me also enter another line of code, RR1 dot select. So this will select the particular range which is represented by the variable name RR1. We'll enter this RR1 dot select again after our second way of representing of assigning the range object. Let me enter another code that will change the active cell. Let me make it F4, range F4. So range F4 dot select. So the purpose of this is to change the active cell, and post which we'll run these lines of code and we'll check if RR1 is getting selected again or not. And if it gets selected, this would imply that our assignment of this particular range via this syntax is correct. So let me run these lines of code step by step by clicking on the Step Into tab. Let me change the active cell in the worksheet. And now let me step into this particular subroutine. There's some error, the position of the parenthesis. Let me correct it. Okay, so yeah, let's go to the next step. So this line of code will get executed. Now RR1.select. So here it is, RR1.select has got select. So our code is correct. Now range F4.select will change the active cell. Here it is, active cell has been changed. Post which this is the second method of assigning the range to a variable. Now again, let us select this particular range. So this is it. So both these ways of assigning a range object to a range variable is correct. Uh, so in case you must also have referred to various textbooks on VBA, various other material available both offline and online, and there are few alternate ways to assign a range to a variable name. A couple of them, let me write. Set RR1 equal to range D5 comma D18. Let me again select these two lines of code to demonstrate that these two ways of assignment also works. The second alternate is set RR1 equal to ActiveSheet dot range D5. Let's consider colon this time. Both are equivalent, having either colon in between the first cell and the last cell, or the first cell and the last cell separated by a comma. RR1 dot select. Let's go through these lines of code, these alternate ways of assignment to a range variable, and we'll also discuss the merits and demerits of these two alternate methods. So let's again step into our code, our subroutine. So here it is, it has got selected. Let us change the active cell, and this is our let's execute this. Again, this has got selected. Now while these two methods of assignment also works, however, I would not recommend, because this is rooted in the active sheet. So if you see this particular statement here, there is no worksheet that is mentioned. So VBA will automatically infer that the sheet that has to be considered is the active sheet. Now, since our cursor, the active sheet, was sheet 3 prior to this line of code, so it has selected this particular range. However, had there been some additional lines of code which had referred to some other sheet, either sheet 2 or sheet 1, and this will happen quite often as well. You'll be writing a code that will be referring to ranges across multiple worksheets. And in that case, the active sheet might be the one which might not be the desired one. So let me demonstrate. Let me reach the state prior to this line of code. So I'm about to execute this particular line of code. Now let me change, let's say there was some code prior to this line in which the active sheet becomes sheet 5, let's say. Now, if I execute this particular line of code, now RR1 that has been selected is D5 to D18 of sheet 5, whereas our range of interest was D5 to D18 of sheet 3. Another way to look at it is now RR1 as a variable name refers to the range D5 to D18 of sheet 5 and not of sheet 3. So this is where you will come across an error. Let's also use this is a uh, perfect opportunity to demonstrate how to use the immediate window of the Vba editor. So we can also check RR1 in the watches. So RR1 is a range object. It has multiple properties. We can glance through the properties in this watch window also, or if you are interested on some particular property, you can type it out within this watch window as well. So let's see, let's use see the name of the worksheet in which RR1 is present. So RR1.Sheet.Name. Let me check what is the value. Okay, there must have been an error. RR1.Worksheet.Name, I believe. Sheet 5. I can again add and check the range address, RR1.address. So it's a D5 to D18, whereas the address is correct, but the worksheet in which it is present is sheet 5, whereas our range of interest is the D5 to D18 of worksheet named sheet 3. So this is where we are coming across a problem where this particular manner of writing of assigning a range variable to a range object is will result in an error. So both these two lines of code are equivalent. Here it is ActiveSheet.Range, whereas here it is only range. So this is automatically inferred to be the ActiveSheet by VBA. So the basic essence of what I'm trying to say is that instead of using this particular manner of assigning a range object to a variable, we should always prefer this particular method wherein first we are mentioning the workbook, which is this workbook in this case, followed by .worksheets, wherein I will mention the specific worksheet whose range we want to refer to, and followed by range, wherein we'll enter the first cell and the last cell, either combined by a colon operator or separated by a comma. There are multiple ways to pass in this particular first cell and the last cell by using the properties of range object and cells object. There are multiple ways to pass in the sheet name or sheet number in this particular syntax. We'll come to know more about this as we go into further properties and methods of ranges in VBA. So so with this in mind, with this syntax to be followed in mind, let us clean our code. Let's comment out this particular methods. Let's comment out this one also and these few lines of code. So after having discussed the syntax that we should follow to assign a range object from the worksheet to a variable in VBA code, we'll explore a few additional methods and properties of a range object. So let's explore the first one, RR1 dot clear content. Yeah, it's immediately available by the IntelliSense. So let's enter. Then RR1 dot clear format. So RR1 dot clear contents will clear out whatever formula or whatever numerical values or text values were present inside the cells of this particular range, but the format will be retained. So to clear the formats, we have another method, which is dot clear format. Now, earlier in the worksheet, we had entered a formula ranked between parenthesis 1 comma 20 parenthesis end. We'll enter the same formula using via using the dot formula property of a range object. So RR1 dot formula equal to, let's enter the particular formula we had written in the formula bar in the text form in our VBA code. Let me change the color of the interiors of the cells of this particular range. So the way to access this is RR1.interior dot color. Let's keep it VB red. Further, we have changed the number format to display 2 decimal places. So that is also possible via changing the number format. So RR1 dot number format equal to quotations 0.00 quotation end. We can also change the horizontal alignment to center. So RR1 dot horizontal alignment equal to Excel center. So let me run this code step by step and see whether the same changes are reflecting in the worksheet or not. Let me just click somewhere else in the worksheet. Just one second. Yes. So let me run this step into this code. So now I'm expecting the contents to be cleared. So it is. Formats will also get cleared. Now I will enter the formula to insert random numbers between 1 to 20. So it is. Let's change the color, the number format, and the horizontal alignment. So this is it. So we have done the same changes that we had done using the various commands readily available in the Excel ribbon. The same changes we were able to do using a VBA code. Most importantly, we have learned how to refer a range object correctly to a variable name. That's a very important part, and you'll as you keep on writing more code, you will find that it is very useful, and this will save you hours of frustration and hours of debugging if your range references, range assignments have been done in this particular manner, where you are referring to the workbook first, followed by the worksheet, followed by the range. We also briefly saw a few methods like dot clear contents, dot clear formats. We also explored a few properties like dot formula, dot interior, dot color, dot number format, dot horizontal alignment. So, this was a brief overview of a range. We had considered a simple range, a simple static range within a single column. So we'll build upon this preliminary understanding of a range and learn about dynamic ranges as well. So in dynamic ranges, the number of rows is not fixed. It can change depending upon your data. So we'll explore multiple ways to assign a dynamic range to a variable, and we'll also explore very useful properties and methods that will be helpful in assigning a dynamic range to a variable name. And you will come across most of the code that you will write uh, will be based on dealing with ranges, passing dynamic ranges as inputs to functions or to procedures and to user defined functions as well. So this concepts of assigning a range, whether it be static or a dynamic range correctly, will make your life much more easier. So having said this, we'll explore dynamic ranges in our upcoming video. So see you till that time. You can practice and revisit these concepts. So see ya. Goodbye.